Welcome back, everybody, to A Certain Point of View, our Schmoedown podcast here on the channel, where we are discussing everything in the movie Trivia Schmoedown, and it is brought to you by nobody, because it is just us on the show. We are no one in particular to bring this show to you. We are here talking, having fun with the MTS, and we have some very interesting things to talk about today. But before we get to that, my name is Jake Berlin, as you can see below me. I am the host here on A Certain Point of View, and we are on episode 12. I can't believe that we made it 12 episodes, 12 weeks, technically 13 because we missed one. That is awesome. And I have my co-host here today, Mr. Brian Avalosino, my fellow movie Trivia Schmoedown fan. How you doing over there, man?
Doing well.
How's quarantine holding up for you?
Bored out of my mind.
Yeah,
this is definitely helping. This definitely helps, but
yeah, on top of this, we shoot a couple nights a week on another channel, and it's definitely enjoyable. We talk Star Wars and we do drafts and trivia and stuff like that. So in a time like this, we can definitely tell that we're a lot luckier than a lot of other people.
Oh, if we didn't have this, I would probably be going crazy.
But yeah, I mean, you're still doing the virtual teaching, right?
Yeah, it's yeah. My kids are just like, I never thought I'd hear my kids go, "Can we go back to school yet?" I'm like, no.
Mm-hmm. I know, right? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going well though, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
as well as it could
good. Yeah, exactly. Not an ideal situation, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Cool. Yeah. So as I mentioned up top, we have a lot of fun things to talk about on the show today. We first of all, the exhibition matches are live. They're up. They're ready. They're packed with people that we're excited to talk about with this stuff. Unfortunately, due to just logistics in general, we aren't able to do reactions and post them on the channel, which is fair because they are matches that people pay for. I'm part of the Patreon, and so if I wasn't doing this or doing reactions, I wouldn't want these reactions posted public because I would feel cheated. And so it makes complete sense. Not just because the video would show up, but the audio wise, it's still technically watching the reaction. And so for the sake of that, we will not be having reactions up for the Patreon exclusive exhibition matches, but we're here to talk about them and discuss them spoiler fashion because we have been lucky enough to watch them. And we're excited about it, and they are definitely matches worth talking about. And on top of those, which are the champion match and the new releases match, we are going to be talking Claudia Dolph and Warfather. And so that's an official match that's up. Things happened for me last week, so we don't have a reaction up for that one as well. Just a missed week, but we are here to discuss it on the channel today and go into full spoiler on that match as well. So Brian, we have some very, very interesting matches to discuss today. I know that we're both looking forward to it in different fashions. Before we get going, did any of them live up to the hype, or did they all live up to the hype?
They all, meaning, are you talking about just the exhibitions or the three in general?
All of them.
Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed with the Claudia Dolph match, but that we'll save that for later. But the exhibitions are a blast, an absolute blast. And I was audibly laughing during both of them, especially the championship one. Like, that was such a fun thing. Like, you could tell, like, they were definitely more comfortable because they were in their own element, but damn near sure as hell they were as competitive as if this was a real one. Like,
I agree.
It was taken as serious as a real one, but more silly and fun just because A, it didn't really mean anything, and B, they seemed to be obviously more comfortable in their own house, environment, studio, whatever it is.
Yeah, so let's just get right into it. We have the Battle of the Champions, as it was named, which, obviously, duh. So we had Alex the Demon Damon, the current Star Wars champion. We had Kevin the Smasher Smets, the current Intergeekdom champion. We had the team's champs for the Founding Fathers with Dan Murrell and John Roca, but then we also had the singles champs, which is Dan Murrell. And so it worked out well because there was the four of them. If they had 5 different people, they couldn't do the StreamYard, which is just funny to think of that. But it worked out well. And it was just an overall movie trivia competition. But obviously, Star Wars and Inner Geekdom were layered in there a little bit more than normal because of the obviously the setting of it, right? We have the Star Wars champion, we have the Inner Geekdom champion. Obviously, they're competing in those divisions because they don't feel comfortable in the regular trivia division just yet. But let's say this. I mean, they both showed up hugely in this match. Not just in their particular facets of the trivia, but and we're not going to break it down like we usually would. We're just kind of discuss it, favorite things, moments, stuff like that. Both Damon and Smets, for the lack of a better term, they crushed it in all of the questions that they got. Like Alex had said at the very end of the match, he's like, I got a sports questions right. Like, and yeah. Kevin Smets, he was doing well in all the other ones, enough so to where he won the match. He was the champion. He's the champion of the Battle of Champions. Alex, he rolled Star Wars in round 2, which obviously helped. He just fired off questions, boom, boom, boom in round 2. But I got to say, man, this is we had talked about it. We love the Schmoedown as what it is. We love it. But there is something about these exhibition matches over StreamYard like this that just like brings a special energy to it. So go ahead, take the floor, man. What were some of your favorite parts for it?
They're just, it was almost like silly, like game in a way that was entertaining because you have like Riley just kind of like, Ellis. Sorry, I always do that because same first name. You've got like Ellis joking around with them. Harloff's just literally just like laying in his, like sitting back in his chair, and like they're just all joking with each other. And to be honest, coming into this, I was like, this is gonna be Merle's just gonna ruin them. Like,
well, Merle or Rocco, one or the other, just because they're competing in the division.
Yeah. So to see that they did a fantastic job of putting Star Wars and Inner Geekdom stuff in it, because it was fair throughout the whole entire time. Now, did it probably work out a lot better because Damon and Smets landed on categories in the second round that they can actually do? Absolutely. It probably would have just been like a little bit more lopsided if Damon would have landed on, I don't know, biopics or sports movies, and you got Smets landing on soundtracks. Westerns. I don't know, something Western, sure. But for lack of a better term, those two both landed on their categories. Well,
which in a weird way makes the match more fair.
It did make that. It literally came down to the end. Like,
well, yeah, and what I'm saying is, like, if you were just to make it a straight, like you were to essentially pull the singles division into this match, more than likely they wouldn't land on their categories, right? But you're looking at the Star Wars champion landing on Star Wars and the Inner Geekdom champion landing on MCU. And then the other two, Merle and Rocco, landing on categories that they're good with, right? It felt like it was just right. Like it felt right, and it was so like, and it brought match. And it just brought like this super weird energy to the match. It's like because I believe he was rolled first.
Yeah, he went first,
and that was a domino effect of everybody saying no, I'm not going to roll yet. But then
it was only Merle to him, and then he said, "Yeah, I'll do it."
So, but the second he rolled Star Wars, you could tell that everyone just like, oh, like
everyone literally,
like crap. I have to step my game up now because he's gonna go 5 for 5 or 4 for 4 or whatever it was, and he's just gonna wreck shop. And lo and behold, he did. But then everybody else is like, okay, this isn't exhibition anymore. Like this is game on. And then Smets rolled MCU, and then Merle and Roker are like, what do we got to do to make it a little bit more on our side? And it was just like, it's a super fun match to do. And it's the perfect one to start this exhibition run off. And if we're not going to have matches for a while, it just feels right that this is the way it happens. I would love to see this match over again, like a repeat, and just kind of like play this every. Like, well, I'm saying like do it like a couple times, maybe like once or twice more, and see who comes out on top every time.
You had it. Everything worked out perfectly. The people that were in it are all fun, hilarious people that we like. We enjoy, we love seeing. The categories, it all worked out perfectly. The scoring of the game, it was never, I mean, there were points where people were down and they had to make a comeback, but not once was there like the three of them are ahead and there's this one person that's just going to get knocked out early. The fact that they all made it to that third round and it was just like punch, 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 like throughout the whole thing, it made it so much better. And they were not like Smets's second round questions were not give like lobs. Like I could not believe that one of the second round questions was how many times has Nick Fury appeared in the whole entire MCU. I was like, that's like to me, I was like, whoa, that's like a fifth round or a 5-point question. Like that's hard. That's a hard question. It wasn't like Damon was getting a lob of a Star Wars. Like they were difficult ones. And so it was so much more enjoyable because no one was out of it at any point until the end, until it was literally just, all right, if he gets better than you, you're going to get knocked out or he's going to get knocked out. And that's what just made it so much. Cause I mean, as much as we love to see maybe like someone just absolutely annihilate like Robert Parker kind of did in this setting, I would much rather see what we got with the 4 champions. That's why they're champions. They literally, it was knockdown, drag out the whole way through. It wasn't just it wasn't just Merle wiping the slate of them. And that's what made it entertaining because you had the reactions of like people are pulling things out and they're just like, are you kidding me? How did he get that? So it was so much. It might be like, which is funny because it was just an exhibition. It might be like one of my all-time favorite episodes, if you will.
Yeah, a lot of people go to the exhibitions when they talk about favorites because there's been so many of them. There's been a lot of good ones over the years. It had, like you had said, even though it was an exhibition, it had everything that a normal match had. We talked about, the lucky pulls, like, Damon landing on Star Wars, and Smets landing on MCU, but we also have to mention the Roko pull with the Goblin from Lord of the Rings, like out of his backside, out of nowhere. Like how cool is that to keep him in the game? Not, like that's something that's not mentioned, or I don't know if anybody else has talked about it, but that question kept him in the game. Like
absolutely,
he didn't end up winning, obviously, but he would not have been continuing on if he didn't answer that correctly. And so, super cool that it had everything that you want from not just a regular match, but really a champions match. The only thing I will say is that after watching the new release questions, I do wish that it was 5 rounds. I do wish that they threw in like the championship one. I wish that they would have thrown in the championship rounds because technically it is the battle of the champions.
Yeah.
You throw in the speed round, you throw in the betting round just to do it. But in no way am I saying no. Like it was a bad match because it wasn't. It lived up and exceeded any expectation we had for it. So much so that this should become like a yearly thing, if not more.
Yeah. And well, it's funny because this kind of is more for the second match, but it's kind of cool because in the second match, we saw players that were on teams, but then there are people that aren't on teams. So it kind of almost is like a mini, like, what's the word? What am I trying to think of? Like a minor league, if you could. Like, sorry, I'm segueing into the second one, but like Perry, not on a team, could potentially be like, oh, she's pretty good. Come join us. Stuff like that. So I think the more we see it and the more stuff like that's going to happen, it's going to be awesome. And I agree with you. 5 would have been cool. People would have probably got knocked out before 5.
But that makes it more fun.
Yeah, it does. In a championship one, but I don't know. I think I just enjoyed seeing them all there the whole entire time.
Oh no, really definitely.
Bull, letting each other, and I mean, freaking Roka is literally the king of pulling answers out of thin air.
It's such a cool moment. It was such a cool moment.
Well, it's funny because I obviously had no idea what the answer was. In my head, I'm like, oh, it's probably an elf. Like, I don't know. And the second he said it, Damon's face just goes like,
well, no, all 3 of them. Dan, and if you go back and watch it, Dan and Smets both, along with Damon, they reacted like, oh my God, I can't believe he just pulled that.
So I was watching. Yeah. Well, I was watching Damon because I was like, I mean, he seems to be pretty good with Lord of the Rings. He's been talking about it a lot lately. And I figured like Smets would know it, but like the look of shock, and even I was like, you've got to be kidding. Like I verbalized out loud.
It had that real match feeling. Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Literally, he's the king of pulling stuff out of nowhere. Right stuff out of nowhere and saving his hide. It's incredible.
Yeah, it definitely lived up to the hype. Definitely want to see more. It was an incredible idea, and if anything, this match proved that, along with the one that we're going to be talking about next, or after the Dolph Warfather one, that I know that exhibitions come at the expense of doing real matches in studio. Make exhibitions over StreamYard like this. Like, it worked out perfectly. Like, it worked out exactly how it should have. There were no problems. I had no issue with them calling numbers for the wheel instead of doing a spin. It worked out well. The idea behind it,
amazing.
And so I understand that the in-studio stuff is awesome. Like, it works, especially for the bigger stuff. But if you want to give more exhibitions, you can do one in an hour when people are at home on a random day and have it shot, and it would work out perfectly.
Yeah. I've yet to see a single person complain, be upset about anything. It's literally so awesome because I went into it like, okay, well, it's something. Now I'm like, when's the next one? Like, I can't wait for this what's our next one? Like, who's the next? Like, it was so much fun, and it takes you out of your reality of what you're kind of doing or what's going on, and you just enjoy. Like, it's funny because it almost feels like you're a part of it. Because
yes,
you're there. It's like when you watch SCN live and they're just joking around and being silly, and it's really cool that we get this, and it makes everyone still feel like connected, kind of like this, like everyone always says, this is a community, and it really is. And just seeing the exhibitions, it puts a little bit of normalcy back in, and it's not a joke. They're all out to win. They do not want to lose. Not one person in either of the exhibitions took it lightly. They want to win. And so it's really fun. Like, I really hope people aren't questioning whether or not if it's worth it, because it's so worth it. So worth it.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the real match of the week. We'll step away from the exhibitions here just for a little bit, and we're going to talk about Claudia Dolph versus Warfather. We have KOrruption versus the Burning Droogs. And if you recognize the name Claudia Dolph, that is because she has already been traded twice before playing. Her name has been popped up quite a bit in the league so far this year. But we finally get a look at her and her performance as a player. Two unknown players, obviously, first-time players for the both. Or excuse me, first-time players for the both of them in this league. Warfather competed in Inner Geekdom before, but he is in singles now, playing for the Burning Droogs and Robert Meyer Burnett. So we didn't really know what to expect with them. But I gotta say they both stepped up and proved themselves pretty well. Pulled some questions out of their backside, landed on some stuff that obviously wasn't a strength. For the first round, they ended up being tied 4-4 after one round. Again, got some questions that were a little bit tailored to them a little bit more. They both missed some questions, went back and forth, but ended up being a 4-4 round one. And then we get to a round two, and this is where it kind of went lopsided for a second. Claudia Dolph spun musicals to start the round, and she obliterated. She went perfect. She got 8 points. She went 4 for 4. So she was up 12-4 after her round. And we have seen very few people do that with a category like musicals or dance or anything like that. And
musicals is usually death.
Yeah, and she seems to have a strength that a lot of people don't, and that can be pretty lethal on a team if that ever comes to that point, because you pair her with someone who has a completely opposite mindset and strength, that can be pretty dangerous. But we go to Warfather, and he initially spun dance, smartly spun away from it, because if you pick musicals and dance together, you don't know if that's a Claudia Dolph strength of hers. And if he misses questions in a dance, she could just steal him up and get more points on her side. So he spun a gun and landed on Scarlett Johansson. Didn't really look too confident in it, and ultimately only walked away with 5 points in that round. And Claudia Dolph walked away with a point as well. So it was a 4-point swing after round two. So far, Brian, I mean, so it's 13-9 after the 2 rounds. We see someone absolutely crush their category, someone who kind of struggled a little bit. What were your thoughts going into round 3?
Finally, we see KOrruption finally have someone that's going to take us to the glory road, and yeah, it didn't work out. But she's a lot stronger than a lot of these newer people. Like, we've been seeing a lot of final scores where they hit like 14 maybe is like our highest. She was not one of those. She was in, I would put her in an upper tier for, I mean, of a first viewing, an upper tier of these new people that we've seen that have their first match. Cause we've seen some that Robert Parker obliterate. Okay. Then you have the ones that are like, okay, you got a good amount of points. And then you see the ones that are like, they pull it out of their backsides. I would put her in the upper. By the second round, I was like, wow, okay, she's definitely a competitor. And even Warfather was kind of like in that middle at that point. I was like, okay, he could be good too. And then obviously the third round happens.
Yeah, so third round happens, and Warfather at this point has to answer all of his questions correctly to even have a shot here. And he only answers 2 of his 3, but they were the 2-pointer and the 5-pointer. So he walks away with 7 points in round 3, going up 3 points on Claudia Dolph. And we're sitting there at this point like, okay, like she has to answer a 2 and a 3-pointer to win. That's all she has to do, right? She has to answer that. She has to answer a 3-pointer just to tie. She has to answer the 5-pointer just to win the match. And unlucky for her, she not only got categories that seemed to not really fit her, but she got questions that completely stumped her, and she went over 3, and Warfather walked away with the lucky victory. Lucky victory, big time. And look, there's not really, I'll retract that, because there's not really luck in a lot of these matches, but it was a matter of him fighting back from an okay round 2 and doing what he needed to do and putting pressure on her to answer questions, and she just wasn't able to do it. And Burning Droogs, and here's even the bigger part of it, KOrruption could have had the TKO going into that round, and that walked away. That was a 2-point swing essentially for KOrruption, because they were up 2 points, and then they lost those 2 points, or a 3-point swing even, because they lost a point to Burning Droogs in that round, or that match. And so Robert Meyer Burnett gets his guy a victory. And I got to say this before we get to your thoughts here on the round 3. I love Warfather. I think
really?
I think he is, like, we had talked about it beforehand with Barbarian, right? How we weren't kind of like feeling his character too much. We wanted to see a little bit more from him, a little bit more fleshed out. This guy just came in like I'm Warfather. Like, you accept me or I don't care. Like, that's just who he is. And it worked out. And the cool thing is he stuck through it the entire match. Like, even like on the whiteboard and the way he was saying stuff, he just stuck with the Warfather through the entire match. And so right now I'm definitely pro Warfather. I don't know how I feel about him as a player just because I'm not a Robert Meyer Burnett fan. But as far as the character of Warfather, I'm on board with it.
Yeah. I was just kind of okay with the character. I tend to lean away towards the the ones that are actual like characters, where it's not like you're not a person, you're like more like a, I don't know how to explain it, like a Warfather or a barbarian, or the ones that are actual characters instead of like a heel or a good guy or something like that. So that usually kind of just takes me out of it in general. If it's a person, no matter whose team you're on, whatever. So I was just like, okay with it. But definitely impressed by Claudia Dolph. She showed that she could hold her own against solid competitors. She's not going to probably go out there and knock out a I don't know who's up, like a Roca or someone like high up right away, but she could probably take on that like middle tier of competitors and even probably scrape out a win against someone we wouldn't expect for her to beat. Like, I'm trying to think of someone who, I don't know, someone in that, like, they're not like a belt holder, but you definitely could see them like one day maybe making a run for it. So, yeah, Chips just did not fall her way in the third round, and it sucks because she could have dragged out of there with some heavy points, and that would have changed Corruption's team standings drastically.
Yeah,
and it honestly would have made some moves in the standings, because Burning Droogs is is not low to the ground. Like, they're up there in the rankings, and it would have shifted some stuff. So it sucks, but I mean, Queen will figure it out.
We'll see. We shall see. Especially without matches coming here in the near future, we shall see. All right, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and touch on this other exhibition match we had that we have to talk about. This one dropped this last week as well. Just going forward, there will only be one a week. So for the time being, we will only have one exhibition match to talk about after this show. But for now, we are lucky enough to have these two. And this is the new release match, the new release champions match. And it was a four-way battle between the Kid, Brendan Meyer, Paul Oyama, Dan Murrell, and reigning champion Perry Nemiroff. All very well in the new release category. Obviously, Perry and Dan both high up in the critical world. They watch almost everything in theaters. Paul Oyama, it's well known what he does while he's on the island of Hawaii watching movies. And the Kid is an actor, so obviously he's going to know a lot of stuff anyway. So, very cool match, very different. As we mentioned earlier, this was a 5-rounder, full-on championship match. Back and forth. Early on, you could have saw a couple of these competitors falling off early, but each one of them fought back in their own specific ways. And there was a big swing in that the betting round for Paul Oyama and Perry Nemiroff, where they both bet. Perry bet 2, Paul bet 3, and then the Kid and Dan both lost 2 points, and so they jumped up. And so there was a huge swing at that moment. But again, very fun. The questions, the writers have to be given credit on these exhibition matches because they're so brilliant. The questions are so brilliant, and there's so many different levels. There's so many different levels to them, and they're pulling. I don't know the exact timeline for new releases.
They said 12 to 18 months, or anywhere up to 18 months. Mark Ellis.
So essentially, almost 2 years.
Yeah.
The way that the questions are worded is brilliant, but also they throw in questions that are like very tricky and are
Oh yeah.
simple at the same time, and it makes yourself think. And so I
Are you
can't get enough.
thinking of the one specific one?
Well, which one? There's a couple.
The 5 feet apart question.
Oh no, I wasn't thinking about that one. I wasn't thinking about that one. There was one early on in the match.
Yeah, that one. Like I was sitting there, like, wait, is that a trick question, or is that just like, are you stupid enough to pick a different number? And I think it was Oyama's question, I want to say, and he said the same thing. Like, I was like, it can't be that easy. And I'm like,
also the question early on in the match with for Perry, the snap and the blip, right? Like if you're not like a massive Marvel fan, but you've seen the movies, you're gonna think it's called the snap because that's what everybody calls it. Yeah. But then she just jumped the gun on the multiple choice before hearing all of them, and her competitors got all those or got the steal on that one, and she missed out. But look, overall, very fun again, just like the Battle of the Champions. Very fun, very unique and different. I love that the exhibitions are designated to certain things like new releases or rom-coms or 80s actions, which were the ones we're going to be getting, because it brings out different players, right? We saw the Kid and Polyama and Dan Murrell, and Murrell has been on the 2 so far, and poor guy's 0 for 2 in him so far. But Perry
on his mouth.
Yeah, but like you had mentioned, like Perry isn't on a team and she's not going to be competing because she's so busy working for Collider and all the things that she does. But this gives her an opportunity to do what she likes and the category that she enjoys. And so, and that's for all these matches that are going to be coming up, you know. And like with the 80s action movies, we're getting Kaiser versus Finstock, which is going to be so fun and different.
That is going to be an instant classic.
Yeah, so I think that just like we talked about with the Battle of Champions, these are brilliant ideas, and it showed again why these exhibitions are so special, and why we have to pay for them, because there's such great content that are worth paying for them.
Absolutely.
So I couldn't be happier with the new releases one either.
Yeah, it was just as good. And again, people were definitely in the comfort of their own homes, but taking this just as serious as anything else. Brendan Meyer and Paul Oyama were very much like
they were
like
they were animated. They were animated, yes, doing everything.
Especially Oyama. Anytime he knew someone missed something, you'd see him go like, yes. Like,
and I love seeing that different side of Oyama. We've talked about it before. He was such a hard ass last year. I love seeing this much more of a bright Oyama, and it's really, really starting to pay off.
Yeah, it's a crazy shift. He went from not very liked character to people love him now. He's fun. He's entertaining to watch because now it's just like this giddy kid from Hawaii that people are like, oh, I hope he gets it, like stuff like that. And you know, I mean, it was competitive. It was very competitive. I mean, we saw Murrell miss that one, and then his marker didn't. We couldn't tell. And Murrell thought about like being
100%, 100%.
That didn't count, but you know.
But I honestly, like, if he would have even like said like no or challenge, like I don't think anybody would have fought him because it makes
Probably
sense.
not.
And even like Paul was like I understand, like I get it, it's whatever. But you know, you kind of have to do an honor system when you're playing these matches, especially because it's over the computer, you know.
Yeah, and you know, it just shows that like just because you're at home and this isn't points aren't being you're not gonna win lightly. The competitive spirit of people are still there. Like
100%.
They do not want to lose. And the more we see our regular friends, the more it's gonna. I mean, I cannot wait for some of the ones we've got coming. The Back to the Future one, I mean, Brad and Smets have been talking crap to each other on Twitter since it started. It just shows like people, if they're talking crap, they want to win.
If Gilmore, if you're listening to this, or Smets, you catch this, and we would love to have both of you on after that match to talk about the Back to the Future. You know, I'll definitely reach out, but if you catch this before I reach out, that would be awesome to have you guys talk about Back to the Future match after it airs. on the show. So again, if you catch us before I reach out, hit us up because we love to have you guys.
I mean, all of them. There's such good category. The Bond. I can't wait for the Bond one too.
The Bond one's going to be interesting because you also have Emma Fyffe in there too, which is going to be fun.
I know it's that, dude. People are coming for these things. Like it's no joke. I get pumped for it because there are names. There are names coming,
and it gives us content to talk about too.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because like you hear some of these competitors, like if this was all we talked about, I'm going to destroy anyone in my path. Well, now it's not up or shut up. And it's funny because some of these matches, all 4 of those people are saying the exact same thing, that if I get this, I'm going to annihilate anyone. Well, 3 of you aren't. So it's like, it just makes it so I'm so excited. It's so fun and absolutely well worth more than $10. It's incredible.
Yeah, agreed. All right, well, shall we shift our way to stepping back into the past of the Schmoedown as we have the past couple weeks, where Brian has been tackling the previous season starting from the very beginning because he has never seen them, and we kind of made it we made it a little bit of a segment on the show. As I mentioned, we've been doing the last 2 weeks, and we've kept it to 3 matches per show. And so for now, we are on season 2 at the moment. You started season 2 last week, correct?
Yep. I'm now on 4. I just finished episodes 4, 5, and 6.
All right. So go ahead and take it away. We only have about 10 minutes for this segment or so. So why don't you tackle that quickly?
So it's getting good. Like I caught myself going like, I could watch another one. Jake won't know, but it's getting good. So I had Team Top 10 versus Team Screen Junkies. So that was Hal Rudnick and Nick Mundy from Screen Junkies, and John Roca and Matt Nost. Mm-hmm. And okay, Hal Rudnick is one of my favorites. Like
he's so loud.
That's why he's hilarious. He's so animated and stuff. And this was Roca's first V for Vendetta.
Yes.
I couldn't remember I couldn't remember if I don't think he showed up in the first season. Did he? No. So this was my introduction, my intro to Roca. Uh-huh. So the V for Vendetta mask.
This is like where the character of the Schmoedown was starting to be born. It started with him.
Absolutely. Yeah. These 3 matches, you started to see a lot more of the stuff you've seen later on. And then fairly simple match because Nick Mundy basically just pooped a brick in the second round, and Hal was not happy. Mundy was just kind of like this though, and Hal was wow, how could you screw this up for us? Just going absolutely nuts, and knocked him out. They were knocked out in the second round, didn't even make it to the third round.
But that also shows the power of Team Top 10, man. They were good back in the day.
Yeah. So, I mean, Roca was just the exact same as everything. That hasn't changed. I literally put in my thing, Roca hasn't changed a bit, like in my notes. So then my next one, which you're going to love, was Team Collider versus Team SourceFed. This was John Schnepp and Dennis Zhang and Steve Zaragoza and Matt Lieberman. Yep. This was my first introduction to Schnepp. I obviously know who he is.
Dude, I got the chills right now, man. I don't know if you guys can see the hair standing up.
So I obviously am well aware who he is, well aware of the importance he brought to everything of this. But this was the first time I have ever even seen him on anything, because when he passed was kind of around the time when I started. So this was my absolute introduction to him completely, and he's freaking good. He did amazing. So I put obviously first time seeing him compete at all. And then it was it was a great match. It came down to the last question. Again, one of those betting type situations where whoever bets and knocks it, and Team Collider ended up winning. So Schnepp and Zhang Dennis ended up pulling that win out, and it was nice to finally kind of like almost like officially, I want to say, like be introduced to him, because obviously he was a huge impact on the whole community of Schmoedown, but like I never got to see like the origin of him or where he came from, and that was my first introduction to it. So, and how much like the Collider aspect really came into it was his first appearance of it. So
yeah, he I mean, obviously how much he meant to the community and how much he meant to me. I was lucky enough to get a chance to meet with him and talk to him.
Picture.
And take an awesome picture. We put the rock symbol up together. At the AMC 100 Million Views Club. I've been watching this crew, this circle for a very long time, and Schnepp, once the Schmoedown became the Schmoedown, where it was in studio and it kind of became what it is now. He was partnered with Robert Meyer Burnett, and they were team heroes, and competed in singles once or twice, and he famously lost to Finstock.
Stop spoiling for me.
You'll get there eventually. You probably would have been spoiled anyway. But yeah, it's he's a very special human being. He's the original sweaty. He's the king of the sweaties. Being who I know who you are and being who you are, you would really enjoy a lot of his stuff as far as the time when he hosted Heroes, the comic book show, and his time on Movie Talk and all that type of stuff. You should really check it out. Give us, even if it's just an episode or so. He's just such a vibrant, energetic human being that lit up the room every time you talk to him. And again, I'm not talking about this from a personal experience. I met the guy once, but I watched him over and over and over again through a screen, and I felt like I knew him. And seeing him in the Schmoedown was always fun. I know Christian always had a big plan for him. Touted as the big man, and he wanted him to go to heel at one point and be the bad guy, the big bad villain, and just never was able to happen. So, I forgot that they debuted there, and Schnepp is one of a kind, and we miss him every day, and I think that his legacy will always live on. But seeing him in the Schmoedown was always fun because he really bought into it and understood what it was.
Yeah, because this was one of those things where I always see in the promo where he came out in the Superman costume, and then his partner was Batman, obviously. So it's nice to put context to it. And once I saw it coming, I was like, oh, Jake's gonna love hearing.
He would have. I know that Christian has talked about it multiple times, and I'll say it quickly because we have to go quickly here. They had talked about him going heel. He would have been the perfect counterpart to Mike Kalinowski. He would have been the perfect counterpart to a Mike Kalinowski because Kalinowski's great inner geekdom. Schnepp he knew film. He knew film, not just inner geekdom stuff. He knew film. He was a sweaty. He's the king of them, but he knew film. And because he wanted to go bad, Kalinowski and Schnepp would have been a great team and a great combo together for a Corruption style. Nothing against a Chance Ellison because he's incredible, but I could have seen a Mike Kalinowski and a John Schnepp together on a team, just like ruling the Schmoedown, going after it, like the villains they are. So,
yeah. So I figured you'd like hearing that one. So that was my introduction to him. And then my very last one was Team B Team versus Team Champs. So this was my introduction to Dan Murrell as well.
Yeah, and Mark Wiley partnered together, right?
Yes, and then they actually, ironically, played Ace Cabrera, who we just did a thing about.
Yep.
I had no idea he'd been around that long. I thought he was another new person.
Mm.
And it was a 3-person was a handicap 3 versus 2
It
match.
was all the interns.
Yeah, exactly. So it was Dan Murrell and Mark Riley versus Cobster, Cody Hall, and Cabrera. And so it was
oh man, that's I now that you're saying this, I legitimately remember watching this match and how much fun it was.
Yeah, they came out as T-Rexes, and Cobster was
and one of them like attacked the other, right? Did that happen that match?
Oh no, they killed Makuga.
That's what it was. They killed Makuga. That's what it was. Yeah.
Makuga was just eating the popcorn, and
they
like yeah. And you see the popcorn go everywhere. And then Cobster was Chris Pratt's character.
Yes.
And so and then Riley and Merle came out like their slick suits and stuff like that. And I didn't realize Screen Junkies had their own little thing, because I was getting so confused, like, because he had a belt too, because they kept calling him
it's the movie fights. The movie fights.
Yeah. So I obviously figured that halfway through it. But it was just funny because the whole entire match, everyone was like, all right, so we're surprised that the interns are still here. Like, it's like they held their own for the most part.
They know their stuff. If they get categories, they know their stuff.
Yeah. So Cobster wanted to win so bad, you could tell. But yeah, it was nice seeing Merle have his debut and kind of like learn where he came from. And then no FSU hat, but it was a black hat. So
yeah. No, he's still classic Merle. Still classic.
Yeah. Merle. So and then obviously the champs won in that match. But a lot of debuts for me. Schnepp, Roca, Merle, Ace,
the interns.
They were in season, like Cody Hall and Cobster.
You're right. Right. Good call.
Lots of new faces, faces I know, seeing them for the first time. That was pretty cool.
Their introductions. So, that's cool. It's always fun for me to walk down memory lane. I remember sitting down on Thursday nights, popping the computer up and watching this, and 6 p.m. PT. That's what it always was. So, I'm looking forward to seeing this go along. Again, guys, we're doing this each week. Brian's watching just three matches a week. Three matches a week.
Dude, I came this close to hitting the next one.
And we'll be doing this every weekend. I think I'm gonna try my best to clip these out and put it up. That way, you guys can check this out as well on a shorter basis. But for now, that is it for this week on the rundown for past matches. We're gonna quickly go to the faction standings here, and Brian's gonna run this down quickly. Again, only going off of one match a week, but there was a little bit of a jump for one faction. So Brian, take it away.
Yes. So obviously exhibitions don't count. So in first place, we still have Finstock Exchange with 16 points. Second place is the Den still with 10 points. Swag is still sitting in third place with 7. And then our move of the week was the Burning Droogs to Soul Possession in fourth place with 6 points. Fifth place, we have the usual suspects with 4 points. Rockstars as in sixth place as well with 4 points. The Dungeon in seventh place with as well 4 points. And then rounding out our bottom two in eighth place is the Corky Mercs with 3, and Corruption, unfortunately, sitting at the bottom with 2 points.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot of changing. Obviously, Burning Droogs get a point on their side, which is good for them because not a lot of stuff is coming up. They will definitely change this week because we have a match between Rockstars and Swag, a teams match, and that is Rogue 2 versus Too Smooth is the name of, or no, they actually changed their name, if I'm not mistaken. The Wicked. It's Rogue 2 versus the Wicked this week. And so we will have a reaction to that, I promise. And we will be talking about that next week. And we're also going to try and reach out to a couple of the players, see if they're going to be able to join us for a rundown of the match that happened. So for now, guys, that is a certain point of view this week. Let us know in the comments what you guys think of everything we talked about today, the matches, the exhibition matches, if you guys have not gotten a chance to watch the exhibitions and you're not on Patreon yet, is this helping, guys? Is this something you guys want to see? A breakdown of the matches, just a rundown, conversation, stuff like that. It's something we obviously want to talk about, but we're here to talk about it for you guys, so we want to hear your thoughts. Brian, as always, thank you for joining me, sir. Always fun to talk Schmoedown with you. Again, guys, for now, the show is going to be up earlier in the week. We're switching things up a little bit. I didn't put it up on Tuesday this week because I did a conflict of backstage. I didn't want it going at the same time. And so for now, you may see it up on Mondays or Wednesdays, depending on our schedules. That's kind of what we're aiming for, but it is always going to be up on audio as well. So check us out on Anchor, Apple, and Spotify. You guys can find us on Twitter at SchmoedownPUV, right up there above Brian. Hit us up on all our social medias, all that stuff. We're having conversations with people, liking and retweeting and putting polls, stuff like that, having a lot of fun. So make sure you guys follow us there. Again, you guys can follow us always on YouTube as well, where the show lives. So again, thank you guys for joining us on A Certain Point of View number 12. And we'll see you guys next week. Have a good day.